Hey gang, well, we've got another one of these MTDs in here, MTD engines, and this one's doing the same thing that the last one did that I had in. The fuel bowl is dumping fuel into the crankcase, so we're going to pop the carburetor off, polish the valves or the needle seat, and put pressure to it and put some vacuum to it and see if we can't get it to behave. Just a quick little one. This is a 2017, so it's 4 years old. Guy keeps it in pretty good shape, keeps it clean. He noticed he was blowing a bunch of gas out of the muffler, so he drained everything out, refilled it with oil. It hasn't repeated the symptom, but he was worried that it was going to, so he brought it over to me. So I'm just going to take blower housing off. I'm going to get to the carburetor so we can get it extracted, and then we'll see you guys when we've got the carburetor over on the bench. Alright, just to let you guys know, really easy. You have 3 bolts on the blower housing right around the air inlet, and you have 2 bolts on the end, here and here. Oh, that one I got just about all the way out. You only have to back those out. They'll fit right out of the slots right there. And then you have a nut here and a bolt right here. Bolt right there. Take those off. You'll be able to slip that sucker right up off there. And you have 2 10mm nuts here, which will allow you to pull your air intake off. I'll just slide that off, set it up out of the way here, nice and neat and tidy. If you remember on the other Craftsman that we did, I had to take the studs out in order to get the carburetor to come out. You don't have to do that to this one because the frame's low enough right here that carburetor should just slide right out. But we may still need to do that to release the linkages for both the choke and the throttle. But we'll see. Looks like the throttle, we may be able to just rotate around and pop it up and out. So we're going to try that right now. I'll show you. Right here. Be able to just spin it around and pop that up out of there. Then we'll just have the choke to contend with. Get you guys a little bit closer. Get that little spring out of there. Get that released. And this is plastic, so you want to be careful. And what I would do is just bend the throttle rod out so you can push it in and lift up. Just like that. Got her out. So that's out of the way. Got our fuel line that we've got to get off here. We also need to clamp the fuel line. And I'm going to go ahead and put a fuel shut off on this one. And the owner can opt to either shut the fuel off or not. But these will always, again, run the risk even after cleaning. Thing's only 4 years old and it's already having the issue. Better safe than sorry. And, you know, slightly more expensive way to control it and to make absolutely sure that you're not going to have any fuel going into the crankcase when you don't want it to, is to actually buy an electric fuel solenoid shutoff that goes in line so that it's a positive shutoff, like the one that I put on Larry's King Midget. So then we've also got some wires here. I've got a ground wire right here. It looks like it's on an 8mm. We'll grab the 8mm out of here. 1, 2. Sorry, I was just counting 2 away from the 10mm that I already had out of there. So get that out. Pop that out. get a hold of it. I gotta grab it. I gotta grab it. Then we have one wire connector over here. That is for the fuel solenoid right there. Okay, see it? I'm just going to pop that loose. It's got those annoying little tabs on it that are hard to get off. Suppose we could take the gloves off and do it that way. There we go. That wire right there, that's for your fuel solenoid shut off, your anti-backfire right here. And we'll see if we can slide it off with the choke still on there without having to pull one of these studs out. The gasket's in good shape. Go ahead and slide that off of there, keep that out of harm's way. Decided to go ahead and kick the camera on for pulling it apart so that everybody is familiar with the disassembly as well as reassembly. We'll show putting it back on too. You know, it looks like once you get it this far, you can just pop it out. Right here, right at the hole that the choke comes out at. So then we're just going to pop it out and set it right back in there where the choke control arm is. And that frees our carburetor. We are ready now to take it over to the bench. Got a little bit of dirt on it on the back side. It's not too bad. But let's get over to the bench. All right, it's in the pan. The Pender pan. Need to make a label with my label maker. And we're gonna go ahead and use carb and choke cleaner. Get as much of this dirt off as we can. Yeah, it's not too bad. And we may get lucky, it may just be a little piece of dirt in there that's causing the problem, but I will still put a fuel shut off on it. There we go. Full on Pender style with carb cleaner and everything. Alright, let's get that out. Is that another 8mm or is it bigger? Yeah, that looks like 10. Yep. Looks like we got a 14, possibly, for the, set this aside. Get another parts bin, parts tray. That right there looks like a 14 or a 15. Let's see. The 14. I called it 14. I'm getting pretty good at metric, because most of the small engine stuff I'm working on anymore is metric. Let me get the fuel dumped out. Hang on just a second, everybody. It's dumping. I promise it's dumping. It's almost done. Boy, it's got a lot of fuel in it. Wow. It's got way more fuel in it than it should. Crazy. It's like a never ending. There, it finally ran out. No, it didn't. Almost. Holy cow, there was a lot in there. I can hear the float moving up and down. All right, let's get this off. Oop, not yet. It was the gray the gray Craftsman that I worked on the last time. That had that same problem, but I remember the frame being in the way. That looks pretty clear. We'll give it a quick shot though. Yep, we'll go down here. Good, good. Parts tray, fuel bowl off. I mean, there was a lot of fuel in there. I do not see any junk in there. We'll spray it anyway. Ah, yeah, I do. I get it to the light just right. A little bit of gel from the fuel not being stabilized. Okay, good enough there. We can set that aside. Now all we're doing really is just making sure that we've got the needle and seat all cleaned up. So you guys have seen me do this a bunch of times before, where we just take a Q-tip. Let's see, looking at the needle itself, I don't see a ridge. Shouldn't have. I mean, you know, you're talking, this thing's only 4 years old, so. Okay, what we're gonna do is same thing that we always do. We're gonna grab the drill and a Q-tip and just a tiny little bit of rubbing compound. Go right down in that hole. That's what I'm going after right now, is that rubbing compound. And just a dab will do you, just a tiny bit. Don't need much at all. Get the drill out. Seems like this is all I've been doing is taking care of. I mean, a lot of them haven't been on, excuse me, camera, but I have been doing a lot of this very same thing this year. Got a lot of seats that are, we got just a tiny little dab. That's it, just 80 bit. That's all we need. Need to find a new lid for this one. It's kind of rusty. Alright, let's get that in the drill. I worked on a Simplicity, which is sitting outside, that had a really interesting issue, and I shot video on it. It's an editing nightmare. Hopefully I'll get through the editing and we'll be able to present it to you, but just the craziest reason why the foot pedal for going forward and reverse was locked into forward. And the reason, like I say, was just nuts. Get that in there. The nice thing about Q-tips, they'll just go ahead and bend an angle for you so that you can get down in there. Alright. And this one doesn't look like it comes out. We'll get a flashlight here. Just happen to have one handy. Is it locked? Nope. Try to keep there from being too bright. You can see seat's polished pretty well. It's running just fine, so I see no reason at all to pop the jet out. Say all we're doing here is just remedying a fuel bowl float not shutting off. So now I've got to get that rubbing compound out of there, and we'll do that with a little bit of carb cleaner. I feel like a broken record, I really do. I do so many of these. Let me grab my air hose, we'll blow everything out real good, and then we're ready to reassemble and stick it back on the machine. And this is, you know, really quick repair, under 30 minutes. Doesn't take very long. I'm just about going live. Sans me spending a few minutes just gathering the tools up. The camera's been on for pretty much all of it. Okay, we don't have any idle, nothing. No idle screws, no nothing. We're just all, very, very simple carburetor. Very, very simple carburetor. Almost too simple. But the only adjustment you can make is to the throttle. And it's a big D. Isn't that bizarre? Boy, they do the bare minimum anymore, don't they? All right. Reassemble, easy enough. Take the float. I already inspected the needle. Needle looks just fine. Drop that down in there. Get the pin. Set the pin in place. And then we'll do a pressure and vacuum test on it here. Okay. So I'm going to do both the pressure and vacuum test just to see how much pressure it takes for it to overcome the weight of the float, and then I'll do a vacuum test and time the leak down, kind of like doing a leak down test on an engine. You have a go no go ish kind of thing. I usually give it 30 seconds or so. If I don't see any more than half a psi to a psi drop, then I call it good, because we're talking liquid versus air. Air is going to have a tendency to take the path of least resistance easier than a fluid would. So I'm going to get my Mighty back. And thanks again to Bruce Pender for turning me on to that pressurized / vacuum Mighty vac. It you know, it may sound silly, but it's pretty much been a game changer. Instead of, you know, sticking your mouth on there and sucking and blowing. There's a joke in there somewhere. You can just use the Mighty vac. So I got the Mighty vac on there, and first thing we're going to do is vacuum. So let's pull some vacuum, and I'm just going to pull. We've got 11 and then I'll give it 30 seconds or so, and you guys can just hang out and wait. I do have a box over here that's full of evapor rust, and I do have an update real quick on the stump grinder. I was able to locate teeth, new cutters, and believe it or not, 2 sets, which would be 30 cutters, is actually going to cost me more than what I paid for the whole stump grinder. All right, I'd say we're good. We have not moved at all. So now we're going to switch it over to pressure. We're just going to do about 5 pounds of pressure and see if it will hold that 5 pounds. We'll just leave it there. And I don't see it moving. It's not trying to blow it up out of the way. And the way I'll release it is just by lifting up on the float. But yeah, back to that simplicity. Just the craziest thing. I think it's a Prestige, one step below Conquest. Nice mower, real nice mower. But what locked that pedal was just the craziest thing. And then another issue that it had was that the center pulley was not spinning, and the reason for that was just not keeping the deck clean. So I'd say we've waited long enough. We've not dropped at all. We're still at 5.5 psi. So now I'm just going to lift. There we go. I call that golden. I say we are in good shape. So we finish reassembling the carburetor, which is Again, super easy. Just take the fuel bowl. I gotta find the choke side, which is there, and this faces this way, just like that. Faces right at 90, or parallel with the fuel inlet. Is where your fuel solenoid goes. So we've got that. And like I said, I am going to go ahead and stick a fuel shutoff on it, and recommend it to the owner that they turn it on and off as they need it. Let's see, we need 14. Sorry, my arm's in the way. I was just getting this. That's the wrong socket. That's the 12. I need the 14. Sorry, my arm's in the way again. Okay, now we can get that tightened down. Now the 10 millimeter, so we can put the, and you notice I do not use the impact to put things back together like this. It's just, you know, ounce of prevention kind of thing. You can use them. In fact, I'll go ahead and use it here, and I'll show you that you can't. Am I on the wrong side? I'm on the wrong side. No wonder it's not threading in. Okay. I'll go ahead and use the impact, but there's a variable speed, so you just barely get that sucker rolling. Just like that. And so there'll be very little torque put on it when it gets down to the end. Can you hear it? Then I'll finish tightening it using a socket wrench. Main reason for that, you know, you've got a steel bolt going into an aluminum housing. You don't want to strip those threads out. So now let's get back over there. We'll stick it back on. We'll get the fuel shut off on it, and we'll be done with it, and we can call the owner and have him come pick it up. Alright, I'll show you just how quick and easy it is to install a fuel shut off. Cut the line. Make sure that you have your fuel line plugged off. Have your hose clamps handy. Stick a hose clamp on. Go to the other end. Stick another hose clamp on. Take the fuel shut off. It will have an arrow. There's an arrow right there pointing that direction. That's the flow of fuel. Slide it in. Make sure it seats. Get it all the way down there. Just like that. Come over here to the other side. Do the same thing. You don't even have to remove any fuel line. Just cut it, install it. Get your hose clamps. Get your hose clamps over your connections. Sorry, I'm trying to orient these so that you're not going to catch the brunt of them if you happen to slip off. There we go. Got them facing backward. Take your clamp off. That's it. Just that quick and easy. There's your fuel shut off. We'll come back over here to the carburetor. We just got it sitting there. I'm going to pop the choke lever in. Choke lever's in. And as I'm guiding this on, I'm going to pop that choke lever back in its respective hole. And again, be careful, these are plastic. I think I'll use the van pliers to kind of convince that a little bit. There we go. Just snaps in. And we come up here, we can do the same thing. Finagle the throttle. You guys can't see me. Just finagle the throttle, and then you've got your anti-surge spring right here. Stick that down in the hole that's provided. Slide it on. Make your connection for the hot side of the fuel anti-backfire solenoid. Just clip it. Got her clipped in there good and secure. Then you have your ground and your bolt, and that is the only 8mm that you're going to need. Stick it in the wire, and if you want, you can use an extension. That'll help you hold on to things a little bit better. Let me get my favorite little knurled extension out here that's trying to hide on me. Hang on. There we go. Stick it there. Stick it through the wire. You're holding on to the bolt. Then you can just hold on to the wire and guide everything through the holes. And on these MTDs, pull the shroud back so that you can look and line up that bolt to get it started. And we've just about got her tightened down. Get our wrench out and hold that wire just right there at the connector as you're tightening, just so it doesn't get twisted. Give it a good snug. That's done. Our gasket goes back on. Just look at the carburetor and the openings. If you're not sure which way it goes, it will only work a one way. Slide her on there. We can now slip our fuel line on. Fuel line's on. And we can move our clamp. Get it over. There we go. Then our intake plenum. Slide it on. 2 10mm bolts. 1 and 2. Yes, I'm left-handed, but for some reason I can thread better right-handed than I can left. Maybe it's just because I'm paying closer attention when I'm using my offhand. Throw them both in equally. And then what I like to do after I have got everything reassembled, do what I think is correct, is to just go ahead and operate the throttle and make sure that your choke and everything is doing what it's supposed to do. So right there, I don't have any governor. Excuse me, I have very little governor resistance. As I pull the throttle up, I've got a lot more governor resistance. So there we go. Everything is set and ready. Set your cover back on. I'll pan you guys up a little bit. Like I say, it's a 30-minute deal. Real quick and easy. Loosen your oil cap. I don't know if we can see that. Can we see the oil cap? Here, you guys stand up a little bit. Pay a little closer attention up here. Just loosen it so that it's a little easier to finagle it. And you notice I left that bolt in place right there. Just let it drop down. Okay. Then up here, make sure everything settles down into place, and just finger tight everything. You have 3 acorn nuts that go on the top of the blower housing. Get those started. Don't forget to re-secure your oil cap, or you'll have an oil fountain. Been there, done that. Looks cool, makes a heck of a mess. And we've got our 10mm already. So get Got that and get this started. Good. Get the nut started here. Just carefully sink everything. Then go through and do a final tighten down. We need to come back to our 12mm for these two. Tighten. Tighten. Not titan, tighten. Set your air cleaner on. Put your wing nut on there. Just like so. Take your cover. It's got just a couple of little T-slot deals here. Make sure they're both pointing at 12 and 6. Slide the cover on. Give them 1/4 turn. And you're done. That's it. We are finished. All done. Fuel on, fuel off. Easy enough. So that's it. This job is finished. Thanks you guys for hanging out. I promise you, I'll see you when I see ya. Later. I'm out of here.